Hi there everyone. So today I'm on my way to Glasgow to give a speech at an organisation called Who Cares. So for me, this is one of my next steps in developing my communication confidence. So over the past few years, I've been really working on my confidence with being able to speak in public. I've joined Toastmasters, started going along. The first time I had to speak, I was an absolute nervous wreck and actually had to stand for a few minutes to let my heart rate calm down, feeling like I was able to have the breath to get my message over. So I've come a long way since then, and now I'm able to give short speeches, maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes long, with just some brief notes to an audience of about 30 people. And I actually find that quite exhilarating and exciting now, instead of being terrified. So that's good progress. So today I booked in this speech with this organisation that I've had dealings with before. They've actually put me through a course before called the Empowered Voice Programme. So I decided to ask them if they would allow me to go along to their offices in Glasgow and give a short speech in front of the team. For me, I felt like that would raise the stakes a little bit. It gets me out my comfort zone. I'm away from the place that I usually give speeches in. It's not the same crowd as people that I've met maybe once or twice before, but I don't know them well. So I thought this would be a good next step for me. So I really wanted to record my feelings on the journey today and really let you know in live time what it's like when you're trying to grow outside your comfort zone, when you're trying to move from who you once were, a nervous wreck, to someone who's more confident. What does it take? What do the real life situations look like? So how am I feeling right now? Well, at the moment, I would say I'm quite excited actually. I've done quite a bit of preparation for this speech. It's actually for an upcoming Toastmasters competition, but I wanted to have a practice in front of another audience beforehand, get some feedback. So that's what today's all about. I would say that one thing I've really worked on over the past few years is changing my mindset. I really used to have a perfectionist mindset and expected perfection of myself, even if I hadn't done something before. I demanded high quality. That's just something you can't do, especially for things like public speaking. You really need to start off with lower stakes and really be prepared to make a fool of yourself, be humble, and not worry about how you look or how you sound, or if you sound intelligent enough, or how people will view you, or if they'll like you. This sort of mindset can really hold you back because there's so many things that's unknown. You can't actually know how much of an impact you'll have on other people. And you can only just, the way I'm viewing it now is you can only work on yourself. You can only improve yourself a little at a time. And depending on where you've started off in life, where you've grown up, what your family was like, maybe your communication skills or some other kind of skills is a lot lower than other people. And that's how I felt mine was. It was okay speaking one-to-one, but still not great. And when it came to speaking to a crowd, I really worried so much about people judging me. And a book that really helped with that was a book called The Courage to Be Disliked. That was a fantastic book, and it really made me see that even if you were your absolute perfect self and the best that you could be, there will still be people who will judge you. There will be people who won't like you. So it really made you think, what's the point in worrying about it? What's the point in being so concerned about it that it holds you back from what you want to do? And something else I feel that also used to hold me back was I used to believe that you needed permission to do things, that if you were good at something, then someone would come along, they would notice you're good at it, and they would tell you you're good at it, and then they would take you to where you needed to go. Now I know different. Now I've realised that you can actually give yourself permission to do things. We have choices that we can make in our lives. So if we want to do something like get better at public speaking, then we can organise to go along to organisations and gradually improve our speaking skills. Or we can contact other organisations and offer our services for free, so that we can go along and practice speaking in front of other people. And this is such a eye-opening thing, really, because it really allows you to have much more freedom, and freedom to grow, freedom to work on yourself, design your life where you want to go, what you want to get better at, and decide where your next step should be. And you might not know where the road will take you further on, but you're doing something that excites you and perhaps scares you as well. And that actually leads me to the thought of, often the things that scare you the most, those are the areas, if you lean into them, you will actually find the most growth. And I've really found that with speaking in public. I've actually come to really enjoy the process of learning. I've learned so much about myself, so much about how I was triggering myself into fight or flight so much. And that was causing my the part of my brain that deals with communication to basically shut off. And if you're in fight or flight, then you won't be able to communicate, and you won't be able to put yourself into situations that your body finds difficult or scary. So you need to really be able to reassure your brain and your body that this is safe. You're in a safe place and you're only speaking, and nobody else's thoughts can harm you. And you don't need to be concerned about everybody liking you, because not everybody will like you. We just need to accept that. So yeah, that's where my head's at, and I'm really looking forward to today's speech. And I hope, even if it doesn't go well or doesn't go the way I hoped, just going, turning up and being able to speak in front of this different crowd, that will be a win. Me viewing it like that really has helped to lower the pressure that I used to put on myself, really expecting such a high standard after so little attempts at things. So I hope that makes sense. So this is me just approaching the offices now, and I just wanted to let you know how I'm getting on, how I'm feeling. So far I'm feeling fine. However, for me, my nerves usually kick in right at the last minute, which isn't really very helpful. Sometimes it would be nice to feel a bit of nerves beforehand, and then hopefully it wouldn't be so nerve-wracking at the time. But that's just the way my body seems to work. So I'll show you the offices now. Hi there everyone, my name's Rachel and today I want to tell you about my time at Rose Cottage. So when I was a young lass, I spent a lot of time in a tiny Scottish village in Kinlochrannoch, and in that little village lived a woman called Mac, and she lived in a tiny little stone cottage called Rose Cottage, and it was tucked away on the Dunalister estate. Now, I need to tell you something about Rose Cottage. Rose Cottage had no electricity. And to a child, about 10 at the time, I was used to flicking on a light. I was used to the old storage heaters and also TV every night of the week after school. So the thought of going to a cottage with no electricity didn't seem like much of a holiday to me. That seemed like torture. And I actually remember thinking, how will I cope without home and away and neighbours every night? But the moment I stepped into Rose Cottage, everything changed, because inside lived the woman that would go on to become one of the greatest mentors of my life. You see, Mac didn't teach through lectures or speeches. She actually taught through living. Her world moved to a slow, steady, constant rhythm of habits that made her life rich in a way that I had never experienced before. She taught me how to cook using the Rayburn, which was like the house's engine, its cooker, its heater, and also sometimes its unpredictable diva. Mac could only bake her scones on certain days of the week, certain days when the wind blew just right, so that the Rayburn reached the perfect temperature. Now, when she told me that, I thought she was joking. I thought, that's a bit strange. I was used to my cooker at home, you just flick it on and it goes to the right temperature. But she needed to wait until the wind was blowing in just the right direction so that the oven was at the correct temperature for the scones. And I experienced what scones were like when they were baked on a wrong wind day. And let me tell you, that was not fun. So there was also the birds of Rose Cottage. Mac loved her birds, and outside her window there was the bird table and bird feeders, and she had so many different varieties coming to the garden, and I loved to watch them. And Mac fed the birds every single day, not most days, every day. Come rain, come wind, come shine, whatever the weather was, she was out there sprinkling seed like it was a breakfast buffet. But my favourite lesson really came when we went out for our walks together. And Mark would take me down the lane, past the farm, across the main road, right down onto Dunalister Estate. There was a big, lovely old house which was basically just been left to rot and ruin. but my imagination was going wild. You know, I could imagine sort of the prince and the princess in the beautiful big castle. And I remember when we were out for our walks, Mac did the strangest thing, and the first time I seen it, she spotted a log at the side of the road, and she picked it up and she carried it for a few hundred metres, and then she placed it down again. And I was thinking, what is this strange lady doing? This is bizarre. But Mac, the same day or a different day, we'd go out for another walk, and she would see the same log again, and she would pick that same log up, and she would hike with it another few hundred metres and put it down. And I asked her, you know, why are you doing that? And she said that, you know, this log would eventually make its way back to Rose Cottage, and then she would put in the woodshed, let it dry out, and she says then then we'll be able to saw it together, and then she would use it in her Rayburn. So it was just a completely different way of life, something I had never experienced before, and it really was lovely to see that. You know, these things were not chores to Mac. They really were like rituals. They were steady, they were grounding, and they were meaningful. And in the middle of it all, Mac really gave me something that was truly priceless, because she gave me a comforting, consistent and intentional way of living. I had been so worried that I would be so bored at Rose Cottage. No electricity, no Sonic the Hedgehog or Home and Away neighbours every night. But I actually found instead a very peaceful, relaxed, purposeful and magical place. This was a world where you don't rush a log home, you just bring it closer. Where you wait for the right wind to bake your scones. And where feeding the birds becomes a kind of morning prayer. I didn't know it at the time, but I was a prodigy, learning how to live from a woman who lived with depth and sincerity. And looking back now, I really realise how rare that gift was. I had stepped into a world without screens, without constant noise, and without urgency. A world where routines are not burdens, they're blessings. Mac taught me that contentment doesn't come from having more. It comes from being present right now with what you have. From small habits, from consistency, and from noticing the birds at the window. I was truly blessed to have my time with Mac, and I still am.